Hey guys, and welcome back to Economics and Comics. So, this is your sneak peek movie review of Captain Marvel. There's not going to be any spoilers. We'll talk a little bit about it. Of course, I'm Bill with Economics and Comics, and I'm here with Joel and Mike Massey.
Thanks for having us back. We're always glad to do this with you.
And they have a site called GoneWithTheTwins.com, and if you would like, please go check out their reviews. You can leave a comment, stuff like that. They have a giant site. We've been waiting for this movie for at least I've been waiting for this movie for a long time. It was a super early screening, but we're filming a little bit later, and we did it.
And there were strict embargoes too. This was not an easy film to get into and see. There was the studio, for some bizarre reason, had we had to sign virtual non-disclosure agreements just to watch this film. So,
no nothing.
Yeah. They had it under wraps. It's a very high value property apparently.
I kind of wonder why. I mean, there's nothing super secret.
It's a little strange. And I had heard too that somebody had mentioned that certain countries overseas and things had seen this too. So it wasn't, we weren't the first audiences worldwide to see it, but early screenings. So it's
Well, speaking of waiting a long time for this, it's been around 20 movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this is the first one to be frontlined by, it's a headlined by a female superhero.
Yeah, I almost thought Black Widow would have been the first one to get her own movie.
Yeah, she has yet to have her own movie.
Well, so maybe we should start with Bill this time, and you tell us what your take is, because this is right up your alley. Of all of the movies we go and see, this is very, this straight up superhero, and you probably know a lot more about this particular character than we do anyway, especially because there's this particular origin. This is Carol Danvers, which is not even the only Captain Marvel. It's one of many.
Well, I mean, instead of talking about the character itself, I mean, I'd rather talk about the movie, because, well, you know what I mean. I think basically the movie itself. Here's the thing, for my fans, I'm a comic guy, so everyone wants to know. Everyone has these expectations from the previews, okay, and I think that's kind of where I want to start. That
okay.
People think, hey, the previews don't look good.
Was that the general consensus? Was that the previews?
The trailers were not very well done.
And most of the time, these guys don't watch.
I never saw the trailer, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw a poster.
I ended up seeing
with a cat. So that was the only thing I knew about it. Was there's a cat in there.
And I'll get to how I feel about it at the end of the review. But we're not going to spoil anything. But basically, this is an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
This is what that is. It's comparable to maybe Thor's origin, Thor #1. It has that feel, I guess, kind of.
There's a lot of sci-fi elements. Yeah. The film starts in it's a different world, a different environment, so it's not as earthbound.
They start on the Kree homeworld.
Yeah, so it's
definitely you're immediately in this completely alien.
Yeah,
world.
The opening moments, I very much got a Star Wars vibe. Usually with the Marvel films, I get this. Doctor Strange and those types of characters, even though there's all of these very extraterrestrial sorts of things going on, it's earthbound, and that kind of, they ease you into it. This one, boom, you start right into
it's
science
because
fiction.
all of this Kree homeworld, they're battling the Skrulls, and they send this elite squad of soldiers to go basically rescue a spy. And
that's probably all covered in the trailer. Right?
Yeah, it's all covered in the opening moments of the movie. But all of these characters are essentially human looking. So I think it is a little strange to take you out of that and say, well, this is a totally alien world.
Well, the Kree in the
Kree are humanoid.
The Kree are human. Yeah, there's some that are.
So you kind of immediately feel like these are humans. These are people from Earth, but it's not that case at all. And so they end up. As you've probably seen in the trailers, they end up going to Earth, but
yeah, and I mean it's based in the 80s,
the 90s. In fact, it takes place in 1996 is when they ended up traveling to Earth.
Yeah, and one of the most prominent things about this film is its soundtrack. They did, in a lot of ways, I think they copied Guardians of the Galaxy, and that film had such popularity, not only with the humor that hadn't really been used that way in previous Marvel franchise films, but also the soundtrack. And here, it's kind of the '90s equivalent of what Guardians of the Galaxy did. We've got a very ever-present soundtrack, and every scene transition, you kind of boom get into this other, very recognizable. If you're a child of the '90s, it's a very recognizable kind of a soundtrack.
And most of the songs people are still
they're still popular. There's no deep dives as far as
I can definitely say this is no Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, I'm going to say that right now because I think people are expecting me to be honest without spoiling, and I want them to know that it's a decent movie.
We enjoyed it.
It's. I think if we were going to judge it, and we're going to talk more about the movie in general, but I don't know why I'm going straight to this, but if I was going to judge it in regard to, you said about 20 movies, which is crazy enough, I would honestly say it's on the lower end of spectacular. In regard
tough critic.
Well, no, some people don't like Ragnarok, and that was exciting. Some people, there's a different tier of movies, like Guardians is up there, Avengers is up there. And then you have like Iron Man 3 and Thor that are kind of on the lower end of.
Well, sure. I mean, when you're dealing with this quantity of films, they can't all be good.
Yeah.
There's going to be some missteps. I actually like this a lot, probably a lot more than many of the other critics who were walking out of there with kind of a dour look on their faces. I thought the first half of this film was a little bit rough. Yeah. There was some difficulty establishing her identity. There was a groove that was missing from it. But the more the film kept going, and of course this is the kind of film where nobody's going to walk out in the first 30 minutes. So as the film gets going, it starts getting better. And by the end of it, I was pretty hooked. I enjoyed Brie Larson's performance, even though her character. I had some problems with once again, there's no real definitions as to her superpowers. I'm not entirely sure what she's capable of doing, what her limitations are.
It's not even very clear how she got
how she got the superpowers.
Oh, it's clear.
not really at all.
Oh, yes,
it's clear for comic book fans, perhaps.
No, they show you how she gets the power.
I know, but there's no explanation as to what exactly happened to her, what is now, how did she get these powers? What exactly can she do? What can't she do? It's
the whole discovery of her past, her origin, what happened to her.
That's another thing, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's a spoiler, but she has amnesia. She doesn't remember. Her past.
You see in the previews where she's constantly looking at, she's a fighter pilot. Oh, she's a child. Oh, she's a this. This isn't all that. Those are just basically memories. And I would say the first hour is a movie about memories. It's quite.
Yeah. And the amnesia plot is very played out. It's been done a lot. However, I think they did a decent job here with it. Again, after you get past the first 30 minutes, it starts getting fresher.
Well, the structure of the film in general, with it has some twists and turns and things, and everything in there has pretty much been done before. But I still found it to be enjoyable. It was still well done for what it was trying to accomplish.
I like the introduction to the scrolls. I like. Yeah. You have both, right? The Kree and the Skrull, but the Skrull are interesting. And, in the comic book world, this week alone, there's a comic book coming out called Meet the Skrulls. And they're a family of Skrulls, blah, blah, blah. But, it's interesting to learn more about other races, alien races and stuff like that have a big part to do with the Marvel Universe. And, you go in the movie thinking one way, like, there are certain bad guys and good guys, and then it kind of flips it on you. And you that's kind of interesting to me, too. Of course, this isn't a spoiler. We do find out how Fury lost his eye. And, they've been talking about that for many movies. Oh, my friend, he betrayed me type of thing. But you find out in this movie how I lost sight. I like that part.
The humor is... it takes a little while to get into, I think, because if something like Guardians of the Galaxy, opening scene, you already know just how kind of goofy and silly and joking that character is. With this one, it takes a little while for you to feel it more naturally.
Yeah, there's a failure to be convincing, I think, at the beginning. Again, and it's that first thing.
Yeah, it's almost like because she comes across as a very sarcastic, jokey, goofy kind of character.
It's almost like the scriptwriters were trying to do a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe and didn't quite know how to work that in with this particular character. So again, it's strange. As she's discovering her identity, so is the movie, and it actually becomes more cohesive and starts to have its own pattern and rhythm the longer it goes. So at the beginning, it's a little bit choppy, but I think the ending is strong enough that it's forgivable. You tend, for me anyway, I tended to forget just how unpleasant or just how unsatisfying some of the things at the beginning were. So and you mentioned Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury character. That little detail which they do, the reveal. I guess that's something fans have been waiting for a while. I also like how this fits into all the rest of the films. It's largely independent. They don't.
You don't really need to know anything about any of the.
You don't have to know what all the other characters are doing at any given point. This is very independent.
It's
you get to follow
essentially a bit of an origin for Nick Fury.
It's an origin of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's an origin of everything, because it's pretty much the earliest, besides, of course, Captain America.
And at the end there are the obligatory end cut scenes where they kind of, if you stay through the credits, you get to see a little bit extra tidbits, and that's fine. That's where they leave the main elements that tie into the rest of what's ongoing Avengers.
Yeah, they'll
and
connect
leading into Endgame, right? But I like how the brunt of this movie is not dependent in any way on knowing anything about the other Marvel characters. So it stands alone.
It's the same Captain American. It's the same as Captain America.
Yeah. And part of that is because of the timeline, right? This takes place prior to a lot of the things that were ongoing in the regular.
And it's just like every number one, guys. Yeah. Every number one movie is an origin. Really, I mean, Ant-Man, Iron Man. I could name them all. It's all the same. They're all origins, so they can be standalone because it's the first one.
Well, standalone to a degree, but my problem with a lot of those films is even in the origins, like Doctor Strange, there's so much tie-in with all the other characters. I believe Ant-Man, wasn't there a tie-in with some of the other characters too? I feel like certain of these standalones. One. Is it?
I think so.
What was the other one that the first film that had Black Widow as a major character in it? Was it one of the Captain Americas or something? Maybe that was so I guess that wasn't the original one, but there's so many of them now. How do you sort them all out?
But yeah, I mean, if you didn't see any other movie, you could go in there and watch it as a new hero movie and be fine with it. There is something though that for me the best part of the movie is before the movie even starts, and it's there's something leading the classic and intro for a Marvel movie is to me was the best part of the whole thing.
I'm
not going to say what it is, but to me it did something, and that was it. Once I saw that, I was like, I don't care how this movie is because it's Marvel, So I think
it's clear the creators of Marvel, and they appreciate where it came from and who has been involved with it, and all of those things. So
but there's another thing about Brie Larson is everyone was like, oh my god, she's Captain Marvel. There's that thought like, oh man, look at that face she makes, and all the previews it's this or whatever that face.
She can't smile or something.
And
right?
it's like that, you guys. It's pretty much like that the whole movie. But she is tries.
There's more humor involved than just her trying to be sarcastic. Since Skrull's characters have some humor.
Since you mentioned that, actually,
gets several lines of
there's a bit of a buddy cop vibe with her, and really Nick Fury is the kind of a co-star in this film.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where they're driving in a vehicle together and they're talking back and forth and making some jokes, and I thought it felt a little strange because it's the one time you kind of get this genuine, this must be what Brie Larson is like off camera. They're just kind of palling around, but in the context of the film it feels very unnatural because she's very straight-faced most of the time and sincere or severe. So in that one moment I thought this is a side of her we haven't seen before, and maybe it's not terribly authentic to that character that they've previously set up in the context of the film.
Yeah, but half the time she's a very serious characce, and then the other half the time she's
I did want to
trying
mention,
to make jokes and be sarcastic.
I think maybe one of this film's greatest strengths is that it's a strong female character like Wonder Woman, but even more independent in the sense of her femininity. There's no real romantic counterpart. She's never dependent on a man. She's never sacrificing herself for a man, or rescuing or being rescued by a man. Like, she's really, I think, a great role model type character.
I think there's a reason for that. I think this movie is trying to say something.
Yes, well,
and,
in the political climate that we're in, this is it's a very fitting idea to dispense with the traditional. There's got to be a guy in there that in fact, there's almost no flirtation whatsoever, which is kind of refreshing.
There's no kiss. There's no
Yeah. For me, there's this big thing going on with comic books itself, and they're moving in that direction. And a lot of people aren't happy with it. Not to say anything against these type of things, but it kind of manipulates characters and changes them in a way that some people aren't happy with in the comic book community. Now, I understand why this movie went the way it did, and it was a great movie, and yeah, she's very independent and stuff like that. The one thing, though, about her demeanor, how she always got the frown on her face, you could kind of attribute it to the fact that she doesn't even know who she is.
Yeah.
So she's kind of always got this frown, like, it's like walking around not knowing who you are, but knowing who you are, but you don't know who you are. It's just... and they do get the answers in there and stuff like that. But honestly, the visuals were really good, though. I thought, but at the end, it kind of just seemed all computer.
Yeah,
there was
this happens in almost every Marvel movie.
And that, I think that goes
were more believable.
Yeah, I think that goes back to that first 30 minutes. There's some action scenes right at the beginning that are so hectic and frenetic, and the editing they've done basically hides the idea that maybe none of these characters can actually do martial arts or can actually fight. So they do that very rapid cutting, and it's very disappointing. It's dark, and you don't know who's fighting with who has the upper hand. But later there's a train chase sequence where it's in broad daylight, and that gets a lot better. So again, I think what it is if once you get past that first 30 minutes, the movie starts coming together. And it's a shame. I feel like they probably, somewhere along the line, if they had cleaned up that first 30 minutes and made it just a little bit tighter film, the whole thing could have been very, very effective.
What's interesting about this movie is there's a lot of characters that come back or you're introduced to. There's a lot of firsts in this, even to the point of, the inner workings of S.H.I.E.L.D. and certain things like vehicles and different things like that. It's all in there. You can see all the beginning of everything and how even the Avengers came about.
Yeah.
And just little things here and there all sprinkled throughout the movie, which make it kind of nice. But, I mean...
Well, it felt very much to me like almost a prequel, or, it could have been a prequel to a lot of the other films.
Yeah, but it's the only other film... Captain America is the only one that is first.
Predates this, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it is like that. I don't think S.H.I.E.L.D. was S.H.I.E.L.D. during Captain America. I can't remember.
Well, the fact that that's so many movies ago, it is it's getting unwieldy. This number of films that a lot of people are having to rely on.
It's definitely
past
an origin
information
of a bunch of different things, and it's kind of nice. And you see, Nick Fury has a much bigger role in here. I think.
I mean that's one of the nice things about the film is that for those that have been following every single Marvel movie, you get a lot of little nods to things. Yeah. You get to see some origins of things. The
film definitely rewards you for being
But if you haven't,
faithful.
It's still okay. It's still a self-contained story. So.
Yeah, and it then it'll connects the dots. I almost feel like there's not going to be another Captain Marvel movie. I get this feeling.
It's possible. And we'll see what happens at the box office.
A lot of that,
too.
yeah, it depends on the box office.
I mean, Wonder Woman did so well. I think, young women, girls want to find superhero characters that they can, that serve as role models and that are, strong and entertaining characters that can stand alone. So I think largely what a lot of these films do is they react to how audiences react.
Marvel is even a better role model because she's not sexualized at all in the film.
Yeah, it's they've almost removed all sexuality from the film whatsoever. I had noted afterwards. I mean, there isn't even so much as like a bared midriff in this film, which is very unusual for. Yeah. Anyway, be that as it may, I actually enjoyed the film. I think more than a lot of other people certainly walking out of there, and probably more than you, Bill.
I went in there with a certain expectation. Like I thought, this is not going to be one of the bigger ones. But I was happy. Again, I explained it before. It's kind of like a Thor 1 or an Iron Man 3 or something like that. Just kind of a lower.
Iron Man 3. I forgot there was an Iron Man 3.
If there's a level of best and worst, and worst is still good, it's in that lower level for me. But it does connect all the dots. It had to be made.
Yes. Well, I mean, and this
Endgame.
you have to watch this before Endgame.
You have to.
Yeah.
Well,
because she'll be in it, so
yeah.
You'll want to know what you'll want to know how why.
Spoiler. No. But anyway, I mean, I think it's a good movie for families and stuff like that, and kids, and I mean, they all are, but it's not as bad as some of the others. More.
Yeah, was this PG or PG-13? It was very family friendly in my opinion.
It's definitely.
It wasn't super violent or bloody or anything.
No.
Like that, so.
And that's it for me. I guess I don't know what else to say because I don't want to spoil it for all you guys. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Is the best way I can put it.
So it outperformed the trailer, I guess. Which is good because I had heard a lot of people criticizing the trailer. So.
And one more thing I'd like to add: subscribe to this channel.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, whoa! Sorry if I'm super tired, okay? Because we saw the movie at 3. I've been up all morning. They went to a movie concert, and we're filming this at 1 in the morning, so that I can get it out when the embargo breaks.
You're supposed to say it's 3 a.m. for dramatic effect.
No, I can't fake it. I can feel it in my eyes, and I'm not super crazy right now, which I usually am. I'm more just kind of relaxed, but.
You didn't say sick a single time in this video.
And a lot of people have been saying that to me lately, but I'm tired.
That's not supposed to cross over into the movie reviews, though.
No, but, I feel like there was something else I wanted to say really fast about it. There's nothing. I'm too tired. So, I did want to say, if you want to see their rating on their number scale, go to GoneWithTheTwins.com and read the review. Go there anyway. And check it out. They're excellent writers. I'm not trying to kiss up to them. They really are very good at what they do. Now, I always give a rating at the end, and I do it out of 10. So,
drum roll.
I'm gonna just stay right in the middle at a 5, I guess.
Ooh, tough.
And critic. I'm not trying. I'm just saying a 5 as an average for me. It was for me as a fan. It's an average, right down the middle.
Fair enough.
I'm not trying to kill it, but I'm really tired again. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Captain Marvel without us.
And thanks for inviting us back.
And I don't know what's next on the list, but
we'll
see.
What is that? At the end of the movies, they always say, Captain Marvel will return or James Bond will return. So we will return.
Yeah, we will return
next week,
and it'll be something fun for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.